The plot is the biggest issue that I had with this book. It drags on for so long. Best friends. They're best friends, really? Since I haven't read a lot of romance stories, that it will be the romance that I have an issue with, but I think it's both things that I have issues with. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video at Ada Book. Today, we are going to be talking about Alchemised. So, what is Alchemised about? Alchemised is a book about how the resistance who was fighting against the High Necromancer, or the King Necromancer, I forget what his title is, lost. So the resistance lost in this world. And the current time that we're in this book, we're following our main character, Helena. Can't remember, I don't know exactly how to say her name, but I'm going to go with Helena. So Helena has woken up after a year or so, or a few years after the resistance has lost, and she has lost her memory for a specific time frame when the resistance was fighting against the High Necromancer. The people that have found her and captured her obviously think the information that she's holding is important because she used to be a part of the resistance. She was a healer in the resistance. She has a power called Vivimancy, and she was a Vivimancer, which allows her to manipulate people's organs, body, and tissue to do different things to it. She used her powers to heal people while she was in the resistance. So they give her to the High Reeve to discover what those memories are. And so Helena, our main character, is held captive while the High Reeve goes looking in her mind for these memories to make sure that he's able to uncover what exactly those memories are. The little extra about this story is that Alchemised is actually a reworking of a popular fanfic on Harry Potter, and that fanfic was called Manacled, I believe. And Manacled is just basically the story similar to this, where in a world where the Order of Phoenix and Dumbledore's army were not able to win against Voldemort, and Voldemort won. But our main character that we're focusing on is Hermione. Even though I read a lot of fan fiction, I never read Manacled. I don't know. It just never came across my screen. But I know a lot of people that have read it really like it. And that's what this book is. So this book is that's a reworking of all that. And everybody has a new name, their new characters, everything, as a way to distance itself from the Harry Potter IP. So what did I think about this book? I thought this book was a letdown, honestly. I started off liking it. Let me tell you this. I started off liking this book. I was interested. And then something happened in the story, and I just kind of got fed up with it. I did finish it. This book is 900 pages. So I did finish the book. I was just let down and overall disappointed with what I was given, honestly. It's important to say that this book is a dark fantasy romance book. And me being, what I read, if you've seen my shows, look at all this. I don't read a lot of romantasy, even though I wouldn't categorize this as romantasy because it has a really major focus on the political side of things and the war that's happening in the book. The romance isn't the only thing that's at the forefront. But I would say in this book, I think the importance of the romance is on par with the importance of like the other elements, like the political stuff that's happening in the story. And you would think that it would be, since I haven't read a lot of romance stories, that it would be the romance that I have an issue with, but I think it's both things that I have issues with. Who exactly would I recommend to read Alchemised? I would recommend you to read Alchemised if you want a traumatic story, like that's what you just want. You just want to read some traumatic shit happen to some characters. You should probably read Alchemised. You should probably also get this trigger warning where there's things like sexual assault and rape happening in this book. So if you're not comfortable with those things, then you might want to skip this book. Let's get into how many stars I'm going to give this book. This book is going to get 2 stars. This is a 2-star book for me. A lot of reasons. I think the romantic elements didn't work for me, but there were also just like writing style things that didn't work for me, and honestly made me frustrated, not in a good way. Also, the fantasy stuff. There were things that were with the fantasy stuff that didn't work for me as well, and I'll get into why it didn't work for me. So let's jump into spoilers, and I'm going to start with character. So if you don't care about spoilers, then subscribe and keep on watching. If you do care about spoilers, subscribe and stop the video. Characters. I didn't like a lot of characters in this story. I liked Helena's character in the beginning of the story before we went into the flashback. To me, the flashback section, that's 80% of this book, which you're not expecting. At least I wasn't expecting. Unless, if this was told, please tell me where this was told, because I did not see this coming. And it really annoyed me when I was reading the book, because I thought we were going to go back, like at least back and forth. But no, just like flak bash. But specifically on Helena's character, I think I liked her character in the beginning because she seemed like this person who, or she's not seemed. She's a person that's really smart character who had a lot of things happening, and she also had, you can definitely see that she had a really like layered past before we were seeing the flashback. And then we get the flashback and we get to know her better, I think. But overall, I didn't like her arc in the story. I didn't like her character arc. I think one of the things that they should have focused on in the book was addressing what they say is her fatal flaw, like literally putting her life on the line for everybody else and not putting herself first. To me, was something that should have been addressed. The thing that really annoyed me with how her character arc was going, because her character arc was really influenced by her relationship. I think it's fine to change in a relationship. I don't like if you're changing for the person in your relationship and not, like, the relationship doesn't spark you to change internally yourself, but because you're with this person, you're, changing things about the way you do stuff. And that's how I felt that this book was. I felt like their relationship to me is one that is flawed, but she's changing things about herself, changing the way that she operates and does things because of Cain, because she wants to, put Cain first instead of, her whole life she's been putting the resistance first. She's been putting Luke first, all these people before herself, literally putting her life on the line to heal people, bring them back to life, bring them back to good health. Now she grows. So a lot of the things that she changes about herself is like standing up to Crowther and Ilya, and standing up to Ilva. I was asking myself in the middle of in the flashback, I was asking myself, like, okay, is this girl going to ever, stand up for herself in front of these people? Like, just let them treat her like shit? To me, I wasn't interested in it. I didn't like just the way her character arc was going. Like, after that, it just went from a person that was putting others before her. She finds like a new loved one, and she's gonna put that person before her again, and still not prioritizing herself. Whatever, bro. Cain, didn't like him, didn't care for him. I thought he was a bad dude. Obviously, he's meant to be painted as a bad person. Yes, he has some dark sides to himself, but honestly, would you stay if you... That thing that pisses me off about him is that the only thing that he cares about are his loved ones in his life. He doesn't seem to have any real other motivations for the things that are the larger things that are happening around him. It's kind of like he kind of says, well, I could give a fuck about the High Necromancer. I could give a fuck about the Holdfast and the Academy or whatever, the Order of the Flame. He says I could give a fuck about them. Don't really care about them. But to me, I'm saying, you say you don't care about them, but those forces are the reason that your own mother, like your own, like, your own, the loved ones that you care for, those entities are the reason why, like, your mother is dead and Helena is in this position that she's in. Pick a side. Like, you can't just be a middleman and be like, I could give a fuck. Whatever. I don't like Cain. Luke, bad friend. Luke was a bad friend. And I didn't like in the story how they went over, oh, Helena and Luke were friends. Helena and Luke are best friends. They're best friends? Really? If my best friend was going through the shit that Helena was going through and I was in a position of power and we're best friends and we never talked about it, We're not friends. We're at best acquaintances. There's no way I'm labeling that kind of relationship as my best friend. Luke was a bad friend. Either Luke was a bad friend or Helena's a bad friend. Both of them are bad friends. I didn't care for Luke at all. He was just there to kind of just be the Harry Potter stand-in, yes, and, whatever. Didn't care for him. World building. The praise that I will give this book is that it was able to set up its own universe, its own world that is separate from Harry Potter. I could definitely see where certain characters in this story were, based on people from Harry Potter or whatever. But when I was thinking about characters in this story, they had these characters were their own people. There was nobody in this story that I was, imagining somebody from, the Harry Potter universe as one of these characters. So yes, you can definitely see like correlations between this person and this person, or these people merged together. But it's like a world and characters that stand on its own. The negative thing about the world in general, is that because it's based on a lot of the like magical elements in Harry Potter, the author creates a magic system to, have those same function that a lot of the spells, I think, in the Manacled story carried out. For example, the section where Helena is supposed to be a prisoner of the High Reeve, and he's supposed to look into her mind, extract the memories or whatever, do the transference, whatever the fuck. All that shit is just a stand-in for, what's the spell called in Harry Potter? For occlumency, I believe. That spell where it allows people to read or see the memories of another person. So I think I'm saying the author creates the magic that the author creates in this world were kind of just like used to replicate the function of spells to make sure that those specific scenes, scenarios, whatever, are able to be transferred into this book. I think, to me, overall, that makes the story weaker because the magic doesn't hold up. The magic is kind of just like loose. The magic is loose in this story. At one point, it's like, people were just popping up as different types of magic, and there's no real distinction on why some people are, have this magical ability or these magical abilities. And it doesn't, if I'm being honest, why they exist in the first place doesn't make sense. My whole issue with the magic system in this book is just like, it's not clear why certain people are certain things. And at some point in the book, it seemed like people were just popping up being like, oh, you're this. Oh, you're an animancer. You're a vivimancer. And the distinction between what some people are able to, what some people are able to morph, like the metal. Some people have good abilities to morph, like Helena is really good at, I think, using steel or titanium, a titanium steel alloy or something. But Luke is good with gold, or he can transfigure gold or something or the other. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense why there's this distinction between what people are good and not good at to do with the magic. And then, so it seems like there's part, people have a predefined proficiency in a certain area. And then on top of that, there are other elements of magic that some people have and some people don't have. But again, it doesn't make it clear why that is. To me, I think it leans too heavily trying to rely on the magical functions of magic in Harry Potter, not understanding that Harry Potter was written that way because the magic is meant to, add wonder to the world of Harry Potter. And the rules of magic in Harry Potter are loose because that's the intent and tone of the story. You bring something like that to Alchemised, where it's a dark fantasy and there's a really well thought out world and history and political energies at play, but then the magic is kind of like loose. It's like a dissonance in my mind when I'm reading the story. The plot is the biggest issue that I had with this book. It drags on for so long. I got pissed. then the section I'm talking about is when they go to the past and Helena uncovers her memories. Like something like that, to me, when I was reading it, it was just like an info dump almost. Even though like I didn't realize we were getting an 80% book where we're just thrown into the past to relive the events that our current timeline is set on. And it was annoying. At first I thought it was an info dump. I was like, okay, this is just a lot of exposition. And it went on for like 3 chapters. And then I had to check to make sure I knew like what was happening. The plot has there's 2 different plots going on here. There is the plot of Helena and Kane's romance, which was fine to me. I guess that was whatever. And then, coming back to the present time and Helena remembering all her memories and them having this kind of reunion after they've been joined together again. That was fine. The things that were happening just on the war front side and the political side were interesting. The biggest thing for me that I did not enjoy was just the repetitiveness of the routine that Helena was in. From going to the hospital to meeting Kane to relaying the information and all this stuff was just like, okay, I guess. The rape scene with Kane, the one section about the plot that I really didn't like was the rape scene with Kane and Helena in the current time. So this is before she goes to the past, or before we go to the past, and we get the rape scene, and Kane rapes Helena because if he doesn't, she's gonna get sent to the repopulation, the breeding thing. God. Okay. To me, when you have something like rape in a book, an author, I think, has to be very careful with how they are using something like that in a book. I don't mind reading a book with rape in it, but it has to be used for a purpose. And in this book, it just seemed to be done just to put our characters through shit, right? Put our characters through the ringer and have them do something, or have something traumatic happen to them. To me, in this like story where we are like medically, technologically advanced, and what, like there's no way you can tell me that they don't know how people get pregnant in this book. Like, why would you? Rape is something that a lot of readers, a lot of people perceive, a lot of people just see, obviously, as evil. Like, all right, evil. So like, somebody can be murdering people, somebody can be stealing from, somebody else, somebody can, beating the shit out of somebody else. And these people can be seen as good at the end of the day. An author can write them a character arc where this person turns a new leaf and they become a whole new character. But when someone rapes a character, when a character rapes another character in a story, there is no going back with how this character is perceived. They cannot be perceived any other way other than the evil that did that vile. And so doing this in this story, obviously, I already know, I haven't read the story, but I know where this is going. They have to end up together. So there has to be some kind of reconciliation, some kind of thing to bring these two back together after this has been done to them. And the thing that they say is, we were both raped. Which, yes, this is true. You were both raped. But it's not water under the bridge, bro. Like, the way that it is like rectified or made okay is a couple of paragraphs about, it's all right, bro, they made us. This book is written fine. I have no issues with the way the book is written. The way the author constructed sentences, put words together to tell the story that they wanted to tell, I have no issues with it. Sometimes it was pretty good. But the thing that pissed me off was the pacing, like I already talked about in plot. Just the pacing of the book is so long. It doesn't need to be 900 pages. This book could have been trimmed down and we could have gotten a story that was more concise and hit harder if it was 500 pages. This book did not need to be 900 pages. I think this book would have been, to me, structured better if we were to get the flashbacks sprinkled throughout the current timeline, because to me the most intriguing part was the present moment that we're in, how Helena was going to get out of the situations that she was in, how these two characters were going to end up together, because I think that was the drive, the pull for the romance portion of the book, and how the two characters were going to get away from the High Necromancer, who is the one that's in charge. All that is interesting. Yes, there are themes in this book. I think a big theme that Helena really embodies is the theme of like sacrifice, sacrificing her life for others' benefit, sacrificing herself for the benefit of others to make sure that others are able to, continue fighting, continue to live another day. She embodies this theme really well. But I think it's also a theme that should have been explored a lot more, because explored a lot more in a way of like, when you given all that you can for somebody or something, what left is there for you of yourself to have? Things like propaganda. I thought that was interesting with the backstory or the history that Ilva was telling Helena about what really occurred with Orion and everything. I thought that was interesting. The realities of war. I think Helena's setting in the medical unit was interesting to an extent. Just like I think her sentiment on just how she was tired of seeing people that she heals day in and day out come back broken and bloodied, and she has to send them back out to do the same thing over and over again. And it's kind of like, she kind of like highlights the mental toll that it takes on her. And then the theme of conquering death was there too, of Voldemort or whatever the fuck. Yeah. Sad to say, Alchemized was whatever. I think Alchemized could have been a really good book. I do think, while it does have its pitfalls or negatives, in my opinion, I do think it's a story that other people can enjoy if they like some of the elements that I was griping about, or if they don't care about those things that I was griping about, that you might like this story. If you do like the story, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know why. I'd love to talk to more people about why they do or do not like this story, because it's a story that I thought was fascinating, that it was so popular. And I'm wondering, is it popular because of the fanfic? Like, if this book wasn't based on that fanfic, would it be as popular or not? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time. Make sure you subscribe, and you can see when my next video is coming out. Peace.